Alright, so my animal for the animal project is the western honeybee, or the Apis mellifera. And the Apis mellifera has a lot of different adaptations that help it thrive in its niche, but I decided to focus in on the stinger. But some other ones that are really important to the western honeybee are, for example, its coloration. Everybody knows that honeybees have black and yellow stripes on their back. That's what everybody sees when they see them in the wilderness and so on. This is so that its predators can associate its really colorful outside with its harmful sting, so that when they see them flying by, they know that they're not good to eat because they will sting them and it will be harmful to them. Another one is their bisected eyes, which means that unlike our eyes, which can only really see in one direction, they can see in almost 360, which means that they can only not see right behind them, and they can see everywhere else. But I decided to zoom in on the stinger because I was most interested in why they have the stinger and how it's actually useful to them in their niche. So I decided to go right into the northern mockingbird. Now, I found this bird especially interesting because mysteriously its populations have been increasing exponentially in the past years. Now, it's speculated that this is because they've been migrating from Europe, and that no scientists actually know why they've suddenly started migrating from Europe, but it has been increasing in the past years. So if we go over to the distribution map, it highlights the darkest areas, which is where there's the most colony loss in the United States. So as you can see, there's the most colony loss on the East Coast. Now, this is probably because when the northern mockingbird migrates from Europe, its closest landing point is on the East Coast, so that's where it naturally lands and why its populations have been increasing, especially on the East Coast. Now, if we go over to the diagram here, this outlines exactly how the stinger works on the bee and its internal workings. So basically what happens is the actual venom is produced in the gland and then is stored in the venom sac until use. Now, it's quite possible that the bee may never use this stinger in its entire life because it wants to avoid it at all costs, because when it does use the stinger, it will die. So if it does happen to use the stinger as a very, very last resort, the venom inside the venom sac would all build up right in this area right here. The muscles would flex and the venom would shoot out of the blade. Before that, the blade would have to be stuck into the predator, and because of the serrated edges, it can't actually come out of the predator. Once the blade is inside, it will never come out, and that's why the blade is often left inside of the predator when they're trying to eat them. So if we go over to the graph over here, this depicts the amount of loss or change in both the northern mockingbird and the western honeybee's populations in the United States. Now, the left y-axis has to do with the blue line, which is the western honeybee. And the only reason why it looks like it's increasing is because it's going deeper into negative numbers, which means that it's actually negatively increasing, if that makes sense. So its population is getting smaller and smaller in the past year. And if you look at the right y-axis, then it has to do with the pink line, and it is going into positive numbers. So this just shows how the northern mockingbird populations are increasing in the past years, from 7 years, from 1996 to 2003, and the western honeybees are negatively increasing, which means they're going down. So much of this population loss of the western honeybee can be attributed to lots of diseases such as colony collapse disorder, but it's speculated that because of the rising populations of the northern mockingbird, that it's also negatively affecting the western honeybee. So, in conclusion, we can see that the increased numbers of the northern mockingbird in past years because of migration from Europe is causing the numbers of the western honeybee to go down. So, as a defense mechanism to not just the northern mockingbird but to all predators, the Western honeybee uses its stinger. So step one is the honeybee has to stick in the stinger actually into the bird, and then this sends a signal to the bird that it's a dangerous prey and that it's not the first choice, but rather a last resort when it comes to food. So the sting of the western honeybee would not really kill the bird because it would actually take like more than 3 stings for that to happen, but it's more of a warning sign that its hive should not be messed with ever again or used as prey. So the 2 most important takeaways from the presentation are that the stinger helps keep the population of the western honeybee at bay, because if it didn't have it, then it would be virtually defenseless against predators such as the northern mockingbird. And also that generally the northern mockingbird populations negatively affect western honeybees because it's one of the main predators of honeybee. Any questions?
So does like the bee use like the stinger kind of as like a self-sacrifice to like show the mockingbird that's not to mess with the other kinds?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a lot of people think that it's kind of like a kill mechanism, that it's used to actually kill the one who's preying on them, but it's more as like a warning so that they'll know that they're not to be messed with in the future. So yeah, it's like a sacrifice.
So I know it's like a warning sign, but how would the other birds in the future know? Because like if one bird's getting stung, how would like other birds?
Well, it's kind of a nest thing. So when the bird goes back to the nest, it's kind of passed along to their offspring, and they learn by example. So if they've had like a bad run-in with the western honeybee, then they just know in the future that they're not to mess with again.
So you said like the stinger stays in.
Yeah.
So if there was like a sting at Cupid or something, would it be able to come out?
No, it can never come out because these are going the certain way that when it can only be put in and never pulled back out. So when it like detaches the stinger from the predator that they just stung, it actually rips out its digestive system, and that's why they die once they sting. So if they were able to just pull it out, then they would live. But it's because of these serrated edges that make it more painful and more like effective that it rips out their digestive system and causes them to die.
Like what if different answers? And like love that someone didn't get a home.
Did it always do you know if the honeybee has always been stinging against its prey, or did it start doing this because of the increase? Is it more frequent?
Oh, it's actually always had it, but I just decided to zoom in on the northern mockingbird because its populations have been increasing in the past years, and it's one of the main predators. But yeah, it's always had it. It's just an example of how it uses it against predators in general. Any other questions? All right.